welcome to Worthy Design Studio. I wanted to show you a quick reference guide that I use that helps me get the perfect zigzag stitch for my project every time, rather than having to faff around with settings every time I sit down to the machine. So this is what I use. It's what I like to refer to as my little zigzag recipe guide. It is a selection of different stitch sizes, and I'll show you how I get the best use out of it now. So this is my zigzag stitch reference guide that I made for myself. So it means that whenever I sit down to do a project that requires a zigzag stitch, I can avoid a lot of messing around because I have a guide to tell me what my zigzag is hopefully going to look like at the end of it. So when you're making a zigzag stitch, the two different settings that you can play with are the stitch width and the stitch length. So this is why I have this broken down into two columns here. All I did was, I'll turn it this way because this is how it comes out of the machine. All I did was just made a few lines keeping the stitch length constant. So I was just playing with the stitch width. So that gives me a good sense of the narrowest up to the widest setting that I can get on my machine. And then like that with the stitch width, keeping that constant, I went from the shortest stitch length up to the longest stitch length. So again, it tells me all of the different variations that my machine can achieve. So all you need to do after that is figure out what you want your stitch to look like at the end. And then it is literally a case of just picking and choosing from your guide here as to which settings you think are going to work best. So for example, if I want a really big, wide zigzag stitch, all I'm going to use is the biggest settings that my machine has. So this is the widest stitch that my machine does, and this is the longest stitch. So if I go with these details here, it'll give me the biggest zigzag that I can get out of my machine. If I like the width of this particular stitch, but I feel like it's too bunched together, that I want the zigzags a little bit more spaced out like they are over here, all I do is take the stitch width that I liked, which over here is 5, and then this spacing I liked, which was a stitch length of 3, put those two settings together, and I come out with this. So if you know in your head that the likes of this is the final thing that you want your zigzag to look like, all that you're worried about then when you go to your machine is adjusting the tension settings depending on your fabric, so that you know that this is what you want to achieve by the end of your project. So that is a quick look at what my reference guide is. It takes about 20 minutes to make maybe, and it just saves you an awful lot of time when it comes to sitting down at your machine each time and figuring out what you want. If you know what you want it to look like, this will help you get the end result much quicker than sitting around and fiddling with all of the dials and hoping for the best. So yeah, I hope that works. If you have any questions or comments, just get in touch and I will talk to you soon.